Okay, I'm reading in this one, and this is volume 2. We are at part 2, story 8, 3 Dark Days. That's what it says. Now, see what happens. It is surprising how many times some people have to be punished before they learn to do right. You would think that after Pharaoh had seen all the water in Egypt turn to blood, and after he had frogs jumping all over his palace, and swarms of lice and flies tormenting him to death, he would have he would have come to see that the God of Moses and Aaron, who had sent all those dreadful plagues, was not a God to be trifled with. But as soon as each plague ceased, he hardened his heart again. So he had to suffer more. Soon the cattle of Egypt began to die in droves, thousands of them. Then painful boils broke out on the people. Pharaoh got boils. So did his magicians and all his servants. Next there came a frightful storm with thunder and lightning and hail, such as Egypt had never seen before. It broke down every tree and flattened the entire crop of flax and barley. Then the myriads, myriads of locusts, which ate every green thing that remained after the storm. The whole country must look like a desert, which it is now. This moment, this meant ruin and starvation for every Egyptian family. That meant ruin for the government too, for there would be no money for taxes. The whole, and while everybody was wondering what dreadful thing would happen next, a great darkness fell upon the land. The Bible says it was so dark that the people couldn't see one another. For days, nobody left his house. Everybody was frightened, even the Pharaoh himself. There was no sunshine by day, no moonlit by night. Even the stars were blacked out. The darkness was so dense it couldn't it could been felt. Coming after all the trouble, all the other terrible happiness, it was just too much to bear. At the end of the first dark day, the Pharaoh again sent for Moses and Aaron. Just how he found them, we are not told. Perhaps two soldiers, holding torches aloft, made their way through the darkened of the land of darkness into the land of Goshen, where, to their surprise, they found there was light in the homes of the children of Israel. Uh, One story I heard, being a little tidbit, that they couldn't even strike a match and it would light, and because it was complete darkness. I mean, really dark. And this thing says that you could feel the darkness. Oh, that was a bad dark. Okay, let's get back to the story. Through the pitch darkness, Moses and Aaron were led to the palace. It must have been an eerie journey, for there were no traffic on the streets, no movement anywhere, only an awesome silence, broke by the breaking broken by the barking of dogs and the cries of terrified children. Go, Pharaoh, said Pharaoh angrily, as the two men came before him. Go, serve the Lord. This time he was willing for the Israelis to go. Men, women, children, but not their cattle. With all the cattle killed in Egypt, he naturally had his eyes on the beautiful flocks and herds of the Hebrews, which had been spared. But Moses would not agree. The Hebrews would take their cattle with them. They would need them for sacrifice, he said. This made Pharaoh madder than ever. Get out, he cried. See my face no more, for in that day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. Moses was beginning to get angry now, and he said something full of meaning which Pharaoh did not understand. Not then. Thou hast spoken well, he said coldly. I will see thy face again no more. Then, with rising wrath, he told the king that one less terrible plague was about to fall upon him and his people. And Moses said, Thus saith the Lord, about midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of the Pharaoh to the firstborn of the Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even to the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all of the firstborn of the beast. So it was going to kill the firstborn animals too. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt. And all these thy servants shall come down unto me, and bow down themselves unto me, saying, Get thee out, and all the people that follow thee. And after that I will go out. And he went out from the Pharaoh in a great anger. So he was furious. The darkness passed by now, and as Moses strode through the streets with Aaron at his side, the people looked at them in awe. What man had ever been able to work such miracles before? What man had been able to see Pharaoh 10 times in succession and come away alive? And then it starts another sentence. But let's see the bottom. We have Goshen, and then we have what they were doing in Egypt. But I heard they couldn't even light a torch, or that's what it said. And it says, the Bible says, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servant, and in the sight of the people. Now things began to happen fast. Knowing that only a few hours remained before the great exodus would begin, Moses gave orders that the Hebrews should visit the Egyptians and collect the wages that they had not been paid for years. They were asked for jewels of silver and jewels of gold, and the Egyptians paid up, and they were too scared to do anything else. Then word went was sent from home to home through all the land of Goshen, that every Hebrew family, this is the night of deliverance. Tonight God will smite all the firstborn of Egypt. Pharaoh will then let us go. So pack up your things, prepare food for the long journey, get ready to leave tomorrow. Get ready to leave. Tomorrow we shall be on our way to freedom. Imagine the excitement everywhere. It all seemed too good to be true. Old men and women who were who had toiled years for the Egyptians and had been beaten many times by the taskmasters cried out with thankful hearts, thank God, it is over at last. God has kept his promise. Boys and girls looked up into their mothers' faces and said, are we really going away, Mama? Where to? To the land flowing with milk and honey you told us about? And then their mothers would say, yes, darlings, that's just where we are going. And they cried out in glee, dancing and jumping around. Oh, goody, goody, goody. This only has two goodies. Oh, goody, goody. We're off to the land of Canaan. And then it has an illustration down at the bottom of them haggling to get their pay. And some of them are trying to get paid for 400 years that they did. 400 years. And they're getting paid. Alright, that's the end of part 2. And now we're going to go to our next part. And we still got a little ways to go before I'm through this book and start on the next one. But let's see what happens coming up. Okay?